everyone. Another continuation of our book today, Arthur and the Big Blow Up. And we are going to finish it. We'll read chapters 8 through 10. I can't wait to see how this unfolds because Francine and the Brain are still mad at each other. They have only one more soccer game. Will they be able to get it together? Inside the library, the Brain sat at a table surrounded by books. Arthur was sitting with him. Say it again, said the Brain. I want you to write Francine a letter. The Brain laughed. That's what I thought you said. He shook his head. And just why would I do that? Look, said Arthur, it's pretty clear these days that when you two are near each other, you get on each other's nerves. But I know that deep down you'd like to patch up the friendship. Said the Brain. Come on, Brain. When people get upset, they say things they don't mean. And then one thing leads to another. So that's what makes a letter so perfect. You can write everything calmly and clearly and without interruption. True, the Brain admitted. And letter writing has a long and proud literary history. Exactly, said Arthur. This way you can tell Francine how you really feel. That would be satisfying, the Brain said. Arthur handed him a pencil and paper. Go to it, he said. Meanwhile, Buster was having a similar conversation at Francine's house. It sounds like a big waste of time to me, said Francine. No, said Buster. You're looking at it all wrong. I am? Absolutely. This is your chance to impress the Brain with your logic, your great insights. Insights, huh? I like the sound of that. And besides, Buster added, he won't get a chance to interrupt. Give me that paper, said Francine. That's the spirit, said Buster. Share your thoughts. Don't worry, said Francine. I won't leave anything out. A little later, Buster met Arthur in the treehouse. I've got Francine's letter, said Buster. He handed it to Arthur. And I've got the Brain, said Arthur. He unfolded both letters and started to read Francine's aloud. Dear Brain, Buster has convinced me to share my thoughts with you. In case you are wondering, I still want to be friends. That's a good start, said Buster. Arthur continued reading. Now, everyone knows you are very smart and that you think long and hard before you do stuff. But that only makes it harder to explain why you've been so pig-headed lately. As someone who is good with words, you might prefer stubborn, but I truly think pig-headed suits you. Uh-oh, said Arthur. Maybe the Brains is better, Buster said hopefully. Arthur looked through it quickly. Listen to this. Francine, I realize you may have no aspirations to be a scholar, but I previously thought that you possessed at least a reasonable amount of common sense. However, events of late have caused me to revise that estimation. To put it in words you can understand, it's your excuse for acting so dumb all the time. No more, said Buster, sagging against the wall. Arthur joined him. I really thought they would cooperate. Buster shuddered. These letters will only make things worse. We're doomed. That's for sure, said Arthur. He thought for a moment, but we're not done yet. I have an idea. If they won't cooperate on their own, then we'll just have to do their cooperating for them. Chapter 9. As the Lakewood team was warming up for the big game, the mighty Mountain team got off the bus. Look how big they are. I'll bet they eat raw meat by the light of a full moon. Francine was stretching out her legs as Buster handed her a letter. What's this? She asked. It's a letter from the Brain. You wrote him one, remember? He wrote you back. Buster watched Francine as she began reading. What do you think? He asked. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Okay, so Buster looked at her closely. Well, said Francine, I accept his apology. I mean, it's hard not to when someone calls you a blaze of glory and the shooting star of the team. That does sound nice, Buster agreed. It probably took him a very long time to think up something like that. You think? Knowing the Brain, he might have just dashed it off. Buster shook his head. I know for a fact that writing that kind of stuff takes a while. I guess there's only one thing bothering me. Oh, Buster looked nervous. What's that? I can't believe the Buster spelled soccer, Sokkel. Well, said Buster with a nervous laugh. Wouldn't think about that too much. He was probably in a hurry to get the letter to you, and he missed a few things. Further down the field, the brain was running in place. 30 more seconds, he told Arthur, who had come up beside him. Then 3 minutes of stretching. You should do this too, Arthur. Proper muscle conditioning is a key ingredient in playing to your full potential. If you say so, said Arthur. By the way, I have a letter for you. Francine wrote it. He handed it over. The brain read for a few seconds. Then he suddenly stopped running. This is ridiculous, said the brain. Refused to give in to her demands. What? I want blue footy pajamas and the blonde Missy Malrat. Malrat, the brain read aloud. He frowned. I'm not buying Francine any presents. Oh, said Arthur. Of course you're not. That's DW's Christmas list. I'm helping her out, and somehow Francine must have used her paper by mistake. Look on the other side. The brain flipped it over and started reading again. Oh, much better. I don't know what I was thinking to argue with someone of such superior intelligence. You like that, huh? I'm not one to hold a grudge, Arthur. If Francine has seen the error of her ways, I can accept that. Arthur was glad to hear it. The referee suddenly blew the whistle. The game was about to begin. Chapter 10. As the players took their positions, the brain and Francine shook hands. After that, there was no stopping them. The brain made a long downfield pass to Francine, who kicked it in for a goal. A few minutes later, Francine faked her way past two opponents. She crossed the ball toward the brain, who headed it into the net. The mighty mountain team never had a chance. After the final whistle blew, the Lakewood team lifted Francine and the brain onto their shoulders. Hooray for Francine! Hooray for the brain! Playoffs, here we come. You know, Francine, said the brain, your letter was right. Just because I have superior intelligence doesn't mean we can't be friends. Yeah, what? I didn't write that. So what else was in the letter? The brain told her. And what about what you wrote, said Francine. She rattled off a few compliments. I wrote no such things, he insisted. Then who? They looked around. Arthur, they shouted together. Once their teammates put them down, they ran after him. Arthur, said Francine, we know you and Buster wrote those letters. Arthur could see there was no use in denying it. Sorry, it was the only thing we could think of. But now that you've been friends for a game, can't you wait until after the playoffs to be mad at each other again? We're not mad at each other anymore, the brain informed him. Arthur looked relieved. We're mad at you, said Francine. Oh, Francine and the brain walked off together. That Arthur always thinks he knows what's best, said Francine. What a Batinsky. She laughed. The brain nodded. However, he's a Batinsky who means well. Francine considered this true. She said, no argument there. Then they both smiled. So Francine, the brain, Arthur, and Buster. So it turned out okay. Arthur and Buster had to intervene. They thought that the brain and Francine would write nice letters to each other, but it was just the opposite. They just let it all out. Then Arthur and Buster wrote letters. The truth came out, but now everyone's back to being friends again. So always remember, sometimes things may seem like such a big deal at the time, but in the big scheme of things, it's just minor. So there's a saying that says, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. If you like Arthur and the Big Blow Up, please press like, and I'll see you next time at Cindy Harper Speaks, and we'll read another book. Thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.